Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, ClaudiaHendersonCreations, and in today's video we're gonna do a double page layout again, but with some more snow pictures of Colorado, and I promise next week I will have some flower pictures, something different to look at. But for today I'm gonna work with these, and I have four pictures, big pictures on either side page, and let's grab my sketch that I found in the Creative Design Team's Volume 2 sketchbook. And this had a couple of things that I really liked. So number one, there's a lot of photos on here, and I have four in each page, different sizes than these ones are, but I can make them work, so that's not a problem. Then we have two strips on the bottom, which I thought was a great idea. They have a bigger one in the middle, and then we have a couple on top. So this was my start off point at that point to see where we're going. And I grabbed some wood grain paper, which is 6 inches by 12, that I will feed all the way across here. And I know in the sketch, that's the first thing that changed. I think it's around 4 inches there, so mine is 6 because I have a lot bigger photos that I'm gonna use, and I think it works better. Then we have the Close to My Heart pine cardstock on the bottom, which I think works well with the colors in the pictures. And I also use the lighter side of the cardstock because I needed a second strip, and I thought, this is just the little change on the bottom that I needed to make it look better. Now, fun fact, Stampin' Up! Starting September 4th will come out with their own white core two-tone cardstock, which is exciting. So these two strips are the same size in the sketch, and also as you can see, they cut off the paper on either side, but I just leave mine all the way across, and my stripes on the bottom will be a taller one and a smaller one, and I figured that just gives more interest to begin with. Now looking at the page here, still something missing on top. I don't really want to introduce another design paper up here. So I was thinking, maybe I just add a little bit of glitter in there. And this is, I think, Periwinkle glitter paper from Close to My Heart. And if we just have this peek out like a 1/4 inch, I thought this just finishes off that side and it looks really pretty. So here we are. The next thing, I figured, for that big strip on the bottom, I should use some embossing. And this is the new Birchwood 3D embossing folder, which will be available September 4th too. And I run my bigger strip through the embossing machine with this one. And you might wonder how I made or managed that, because I have a 12-inch long piece and the folder is only 8.5. So I sticked the one side in all the way till the end, run it through the machine, and then flip the piece over and just added that little part that was not embossed to it, and that way I embossed the whole 12 inches. It doesn't fit perfectly, but nobody will know it's a wood grain, so it works fine. Now the next thing I thought is I'm gonna rip my paper a little bit to expose the white core. And how you do this is you tear the paper towards you. Well, if you're lefty, you have to reverse it, but if I do that, you will see how the white core will be exposed. And so I'm gonna start, and I usually take my one thumb and just guide the strip that I'm ripping off a little bit, and to control it a little bit better. If you're not comfortable with that, what you could do is you could use one of these watercolor tank pencils or brushes, and just put water, clean water, on the edges until it's softened, and then you can just rip along the edge there and it comes off super easy. So I'm gonna finish this one and then do a couple more. Let me finish the rest, and here we are. So my strips are all taken care of. So I ripped both of the ones on the bottom, and I also ripped the top one, the glitter one. But now looking at my pictures, they're kind of like too much blending into each other when I overlap them, so they need some type of photo mat. And my first thought was I'm gonna go with some blue photo mats, and here I'm trying different blues that I have in my stash, but none of them really seem to work. They're either too dark or too bright, and it's just not the right color. And then I was looking at the pictures and I thought, you know, there's this little hue of like a lavender type in the color in the clouds. And we have this color, it's called Periwinkle, which has a very light lavender touch. And looking at this, I think this is just a perfect match. It gives the picture a little bit of a frame, and it will set them apart from each other when I overlap them, but it doesn't take away of the picture. So I think this is the perfect color to go with as a photo mat. So let me cut these down, and I will be right back. And here we are. So I tried the lighter side, which would work too, but I actually in this case do like the darker side of the cardstock. And I went around with the Periwinkle ink pad to give it a little bit more definition. And I try to keep it very straight when I go towards the paper and not tilting it, because otherwise I have a really big frame. And if you're using the Stampin' Up! Ink pads, be aware they're very juicy, to be careful. If you're not comfortable with, just use a sponge dauber, that will work too. So I'm just going around there to, you know, give it a little bit more color, and you can see best when I put them on the page how it pops a little bit. So here we go. And as you can see too, how nicely they stand out even if they overlap. So that's perfect. And this strip goes underneath my 3 pictures on the top here. So I again cut a couple of my pictures that I had down to give you the illusion of a panoramic photo. Even so, the Rockies don't quite look that way, but it's just, you know, the idea, and that way you can also use quite a few different photos. So let me glue these down, and then I'll be back with more. And thanks to video editing, so here is the second page that I already had pre-done. So I did the same thing, same treatment, everything lines up on the bottom here, the 2 strips, the middle strip, and also our glitter paper. And I matted all the photos, so everything is exactly like it is on the other side to make it even. And now that everything is adhered, we should look into how to embellish the page. And I thought I'm gonna go back to the set, it's called Frosted Forest, which has plenty of stamps and dies and standalone dies, and also a couple of masks that we can use. And here's the set. So as you can see, there's plenty of trees. I already used the pine trees before, but this time I'm gonna use this tree. And I don't have all the inks yet from Stampin' Up! So I actually bought a set, and these are the Stampin' Right ones, and the color is the neutrals. And I got the Early Espresso and the Mossy Meadow green. And the nice thing, the Stampin' Right pens, they are actually watercolor. They're like the ink pads, and you can just color in your image. And the nice thing is too, you can use 2-tone, 3-tone, you know, like in this case I do the trunk and all the branches and the Early Espresso, and then I will go over the greenery with the Mossy Meadow. And you want to use the brush tip and just tilt it to the side so it's easier to color them in. And this is a nice thing to have if you don't want to invest in all the new inks yet, or say, you know, I just need a couple of colors, and those markers here are really nice. Not to confuse them with the alcohol markers. So these are different. So these are the round ones, and they're called Stampin' Right. All right, so here we are, and I'm just gonna do one stamp here, and then I will show you the other tree. Okay, so this is the big one. Stamps just like you would with ink, but you already have 2 different colors on here. And I know it's a little bit hard to see. So the next we're gonna use the same method on the little pine. And I'm just going with the Early Espresso on the bottom. So they have this bullet tip and then they have the brush tip. So you want to use the brush tip. So just a little bit on the bottom here, and then I'm going to use the mossy meadow and we'll color in the rest of the tree. And this is really super nice. So I like to do that, especially when you have, you know, things where you would like a two-tone, or you have wording, you know, word strips where you want different colors. It's so much easier to you know, color them in this way. And if it takes you a second, just huff on the stamp before you put it down, but usually the ink stays wet long enough to get a good impression. So here we are. Let's stamp our little pine tree. It doesn't fit that way, so we're just gonna go this way, push it down and up, and here we are. Super nice impression, a little bit brown on the bottom, and then the rest is green. Now here I stamped a few more, so I didn't have you watch me doing that, and I just wanted to show you. So I have actually the mossy green ink pad from Stampin' Up, and you will see when I push a little bit harder, so there's a lot of ink on this one and it looks like, oh my goodness, but when you stamp it off, it actually is just like the one we just inked up before. Mine with the markers has a little bit more variation, which I actually like, but other than that, they're the same. So the next thing is I'm gonna pick the two outline dies from the set. So one is for the tree, and before I run it through the machine, I need a little bit of washi tape to keep them in place. So let me grab some, and also for our little pine tree, because the Stampin' Up dies are really close to the stamped image, which is nice. So you want to make sure that they don't move. So here's the little pine tree. And this is a wonderful set. So if you don't have this, there's so much that you can do with these, and I will show you in a little bit also how the masks work, but this is really awesome. Here we go. So now let me take the entire things and run them through my machine so I get them all cut out and ready to go. Now I did cut some plain white birds that come with the set, and I didn't stamp them before because lining the die up when it's already pre-stamped, I prefer normally to die cut the pieces and then stamp with the clear stamps, and it usually works pretty good. So you just have to line it up and get your head over the image, and it works for me. So that's my way of stamping most of the time, and here you can see, so I'm just gonna do the rest. It's just easier. All right, so the next thing I grabbed was this set from, it's called Change of Scenery. It's an old set from close to my heart. And it has a nice couple of titles for me. And I'm thinking about even maybe using some of these words as strips, but they're a little bit wider, so I'm not quite sure if this will work, but my title should come out of this set. It also has this really cool mountain stamp, so which I might use. And as you can see, I have a whole bunch of other die cuts that I still had from the last project with the same frosted forest set. I'm not sure if I'm gonna use them. At the end I will not use them, so spoiler alert. But I'm just looking at the phrases, and like I said, for my title, I think I don't need a lot this time, and here I just stamped the mountains just to give me on a piece of scrap paper, just to give me an idea if this would work. So this looks kind of nice, having the little worth the pause set. I mean, change of scenery, this view would work, but I like the lettering and the how big the worth the pause is. So I'm gonna go with that one, I think. Next thing, I did my clusters, as you can see here. I want to put a tree and a pine tree on there, but they need some base to sit on. And this is a piece of 6 by 2 inch of wood grain, darker wood grain paper, which I just cut in half with my scissors. And I'm gonna make some homemade tags. Simple, easy. I just cut the corner of one side, and then I use one of the clippings that come off, flip it over and line it up on the other side, so I have even cuts for the tag. And this is, you know, really simple idea to make your own tags. So here we go, and use the scrap paper, and there we have it. So now all that's left is I have to punch in a hole, and here we are. So that's how easy you can make two tags. So I thought about putting one here and one down here, and then rest my tree on here and my little pine tree, and I think that will work. So they need a place to sit on, otherwise they're hanging in midair, and naturally you can move them around a little bit. So this is the part, like I always say, that takes the longest to figure out where do I place things, what is missing. I still need a little bit more green on the bottom, I think. I also might need some color in the trees, so let me check. So here we are. I decided to stamp the mountains left and right off the page a little bit, and I did second generation stamping. So I used a pewter ink from Close to My Heart, but I stamped it off, so it's just a light gray. And now I'm using the the Periwinkle ink, difficult to say, and just a brush to get a little bit of color in the background. And I tap it off because I don't really want a harsh line anywhere. It just looked like a little cloud behind, because I want to do those trees, and those 3 trees there is actually left over from last week's project. That I thought fit perfectly in there, and they're also from the Frosted Forest set. So it's a really great set to have. So here we go. I just gonna put a little bit more ink on there, and you can see it better when you're close up than here on camera actually, but I think you can see the shadow there. And then I do a little bit more on this side because I'm gonna stamp my title in there, so it needs a little bit background, so it's not too, you know, harsh blending in. Now back to the pewter ink, which is a medium gray, and I haven't used that stamp yet, so I seasoned it. And I just rubbed it on my skin a little bit to get the oils from production and everything off. And then what I normally do, you ink them up, or I ink them up, and then I just keep stamping on some scratch paper a few times until I see a really nice crisp stamping result, and then I know it's ready, especially when you want to stamp directly on your project that you worked on so hard. You don't want to mess it up. So here we go, a few more times. That's already looking good, and let's make sure. That's why I always keep a little bit scratch paper on the side, and I think this looks perfect. So we're ready to stamp on the project, which I know is scary, so take your time when you ink it up. Make sure there's no ink on your block. See through, clean it up, make sure you have even coverage of ink on the stamp, and then just go straight down, hold it for a couple seconds so it can soak into the paper, and then lift it straight back up, and we should have a perfect image. There you go. So super easy. And I think that's all it needs. It doesn't need a big title or anything. And we just clean it off with the chamois and a little bit of water in there, and call it done. So the next thing now is to get the embellishments all settled and taken care of. Now I already put the little birds down. I put the trees on the top down, and now I'm just playing with my positioning of the 2 tags and everything else that goes on there. And I found these little green mossy thingies. I think they are from the Seaside Wishes or so, left over from another project. I found them in my little container, but they work fine as a little bit of greenery on the bottom. So I'm gonna use them. I'm just trying to figure out how I put them in there and where I put them in, but I think overall that should be the perfect balance. Now the only thing I still think, okay, it needs some color. So the tree and the little pine is a little bit too light, and I need a little bit extra. I thought about doing a little cluster in the middle there too, but it's just the photos are too busy and too many, and it just doesn't work. So I just stay with the not typical triangle. I will do some strip journaling on the bottom here, left or right or on both sides, depending on how much I have to say. And I think we're good. But now let's take the mask and add some color to our little tree. So I already done one tree and I will tell you a little story. So these masks are awesome. And while I was using them, I thought, you know what, it's weird. They don't line up perfectly with the stamped image or the die, but they still work. So I didn't really think of anything until I was starting with the second one. So this is the second tree. And what you want to do is you want to put a little bit adhesive on the back of your project so it's not moving on you. And I just have a scratch paper underneath. And then I line up the mask, and this is when I realized, wait a second, there are numbers on those stencils, and it says 1, 2, 3 for the tree, and you should be able to read the one because then you know it is the right way around. Well, guess what? I used mine from the back side. That's why it didn't line up with the tree in the first place. So once I discovered that this was the case, I just flipped them over, put them back in order, and I think it's 1, 2, 3 or ABC, one or the other. One has ABC, the other one has 1, 2, 3. And then when you line up, it lines up perfectly. So when you're starting with the masks, make sure A, you have them in order, and then B, that you can read the number or letter that's on there, and then you know it's the right way. So I just marked this little V that's on the stencil, and I also mark just a corner of it so I know where to line up my second and my third stencil. So I begin with the, in this case, Mocha, which is just a nice deep brown, and I go over, this is for the stamp, and it really goes fast. I love, and the results are they're awesome. So it was so fast just putting the ink down here, as you can see, just a little bit, and you don't have to fuzz around with, you know, multiple markers and all this good thing and blending. So this does it for you. So when you lift it up, super easy. Well, I moved a little bit, but that's okay. So you can see the branches, you can see the trunk, perfect. So then I use the second stencil, and this one I will line up with that little V on the top there again, and that line that I drew, and also with that corner that I drew. So that way I know it's sitting right and I don't have to guess. Now we're taking the lighter of the two greens, holding the mask tight to my project, and then I just tap and go over the edges. You have to be a little bit careful. There are a few little fine little pieces from the cutout, so you don't want to go against them and bend them. Just go with those little fine pieces that stick up. But other than that, it's really super. And look at that, it's just perfect in place. So now we go and take the third stencil, same procedure. You line it up with the V and with my lines, and then I take the darker green and we do the same thing. Just line it up, hold it tight, and then here we go, one last step, and give it a nice dark green accent. And here we are. This tree just looks so awesome. So I was happy when I finally found out the reason why it wasn't lining up. So it lines up and it looks really great. I mean, the other one works and I leave it that way. It's still, it will work, but it's just different. All right, and let's get the stencils or the masks for the little pine too, because I figure the pine needs some extra color too. So same thing, make sure you have them all in line and the right way around, and they have the big pine tree and also the small pine tree. Now I don't really need 3, I just want to give it, because I stamped the image, I just want to give it a little bit dimension. So I'm just gonna use stencil 2 and 3 of those, and I'm doing exactly the same thing. I'm gonna adhere my little tree so it doesn't move on me, and then I'm just gonna line those stencils up, mark them so they're not, you know, there's no guesswork in how to line them up and use them, because that sometimes it's a little bit difficult. But I love how Stampin' Up! Has these little nooks that they cut in so you know exactly how to line them up. But if you're working on a piece of scrap paper and you know you're all over the place, just make yourself a couple extra pencil marks. And just remember which mark was for what project. So here we go. One on this side, and then I'm just gonna do the corner here. And then I'm just gonna use the lighter green first, and then for the last stencil I'm gonna use the darker one. So here we go. A little bit green, lighter green. And you can go as deep as you want, so if you want to add more ink to it, that's fine. I'm fine. I just wanted to give it a little touch. And now I just line this one up with the V and that bottom corner that I drew, and here we go. Ink on the finger, so make sure you don't get ink on your projects when you do that. And normally I use my all-purpose mat too, but I just had to quickly get these done, so here we go. Here's the other one, and I think that works perfectly. So after we have colored in everything, so I just use, by the way, the stencils and run them under warm water. And when you use Stampin' Up! Ink or Close to My Heart ink, it comes right off, and then you just pat it dry with a towel. So now I have pretty much everything that I need to build my clusters, adhere everything down that's still loose. I might give the little birds a little color too, but let's clean up the mess here, and then we're gonna finish the project. So I already adhered one side down, and here's a little bit string that I used. And this thread is also coming available September 4th. It's got like a copper type of color. I thought that fits perfectly. So I just threaded through, you know, the hole and give it a little tuck. Cut it a little bit shorter, and then here I show you how to put that one cluster together, because you know, the other one went the same way. So I tuck my tag underneath the photo here, and I just have to see where my tree goes so they kind of like, you know, match up. And I think this is a good way. So if you adhered your photo too tight or too far to the outside, and you can't tuck your tag underneath, you can just cut it off if you need to. But I usually just put adhesive under my photos in the center, so I always have room on the sides to tuck stuff in and underneath. All right, so let's put some adhesive on here. And then the next thing would be to adhere our little tree. And I decided to put the tree flat on the page and then just raise the little pine tree a little bit. So I'm just gonna use, and this is, by the way, regular Tombow adhesive, the liquid Tombow, you know, the white bottle with the green. I just filled that into this little dispenser bottle because it has a fine tip, makes it easier, but it's the same simple glue. All right, and the liquid glue is for these pieces, just easier to handle than tape runner or something. So I'm again use this little mossy type and put it underneath the stem, so it just looks like it's sitting in a patch of grass or moss or something. And we just adhere it down, and then we're gonna put some foam spacers on the pine and put the pine down right next to it. And then I have one more of these little moss pieces that goes right underneath here, I think. And that's about it. Now these two strips, so I was looking at the ones that I showed you before, but they were a little bit too wide and too big for it, and I found these two that were still in my stash that I thought they will work. And just, you know, as a little interesting piece to add to my cluster. So capture the memories, and then life is beautiful, is a beautiful ride. That's what it says. And I thought that works well with the pictures because there's really not much to say. I will do some strip journaling. So strip journaling means I just gonna cut a couple of white thin strips, like a 1/4 inch or a little bit bigger, and put them on the bottom and put my little wording and notes on there. So here we are, one is set. Let's put the other one, and I used some foams, some dimensionals to, you know, set those up from the tag a little bit too. So this one here, I thought works well on the bottom, and I think I'm gonna move this one down a little bit because it just looks better when it's a little bit further down. And that should finish up the decoration for this page. It doesn't need a lot, and I think it worked out pretty well. So overall, this is it. I think that turned out pretty nice. So we used the Stampin' Right markers. I gotta learn the words for the stamping, which are really nice to use. And then we also use the Frosted Forest bundle, which contains the stems, dies, and also some really great masks, which we use to give those trees a little bit color. And here you can see I washed them just under a little bit of warm water and then tapped them dry with a towel, and the ink, everything came off nice. Just remember when you use them to not only line them up in order, so 1, 2, 3 or ABC, but also make sure when you're using them that you can actually read the numbers and the letters. That way you know they're the right way and they will match up with your stamped images or the dies. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video and you take something for your own layouts. I will show you the colored birds and the still shots at the end. I just used my watercolor pencils a little bit because they're so tiny here, but they got a little bit blue color. And yeah, if you haven't already done so, I would appreciate if you give me a thumbs up or subscribe to my channel so you won't miss any videos coming your way. Next week, I promise, we will deal with some flowers. And for here is a little close-up for the glitter shimmer and those gorgeous trees. So I really have to say, even this one that I did reverse turned out very nice. So I'm sure if I wouldn't tell you, you wouldn't even know. So overall, pretty pleased. These are so delicate. There too, those little trees with a little bit of blue in the background. Yeah, I'm happy with this. Looking forward seeing you back next week, and you have a great weekend. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.